When I first came on to this role, my very first official visit was to the state of Delaware. And I think my real first visit was with the mayor. We had a real nice lunch and talked about his old football days. It was with the Giants, wasn't it? It was with the Giants, right? It's unfortunate that it was with the Giants, but we won't hold that against you. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to claim Super Bowl champs anymore, but I'm sure we'll be claiming that for a lifetime. For the Eagles fans, obviously, I'm talking to. But, and people were a little bit nervous, I think, when I first got this role, because the previous regional administrator was from Delaware and obviously showed a lot of attention to the state of Delaware, and maybe was a little nervous that this kid from Philly wouldn't be spending as much time down here. But I'm happy to say I've been all across this state numerous times. I actually lived in Delaware for 2 years. When I was in law school, I went to Widener, so I lived in Claymont for 2 years. So I got well acquainted with the state. But they say big things come in small packages, and I think that's right about the state of Delaware. So on behalf of Secretary Carson and the entire team at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, thank you for joining me this morning. First off, I'd like to thank Brother Ronald, who was unable to be with us today. I hear he's in the Holy Land. He's in Jerusalem. And as well as John and Priscilla and the members of the Ministry of Caring's Board of Directors and staff who graciously served as our host. So I'd ask for all the members of the Ministry of Caring to please stand up. First off, thanks for responding to this kind of last-minute request. But, last year I did a full-day tour with Brother Ronald. And as you know, I pretty much got an earful from the time I walked in the door to the time I left. We came back. To see Andy Mountain's team and to see what they were doing. And again, I got another earful from Brother Ronald. So I said, you know what? If we're going to do this presentation, we might as well do it at the Ministry of Caring. So, Annie, thank you for your support, and to the members of the Ministry of Caring, thank you for the great work that you do in this community. And I also want to definitely many thanks to Tina Showalter and Carrie Casey and all the members of Continuum of Care, so not just the Ministry of Caring, but the entire Continuum of Care for the work you do daily on behalf of Delaware's most vulnerable population, those who experience homelessness. Many thanks to County Executive Matt Myers, who I heard you were out a couple weeks ago doing the point-in-time count. It was, like 4 degrees? Well, thank you, obviously, for doing that, and your staff during the time, spending that time outside. It's important. It's really important that we do those counts, and I'll get to that a little bit later. And Mayor Mike, thank you for being here and moving your schedule around to be here today. This was kind of last minute. The secretary's putting the announcement out, and I know these things were leaked, like pretty much all things in government were leaked a little bit early, but I wanted to make sure to kind of get ahead of the news cycle and make sure that we can get this out here today. And I also want to thank the Wilmington Police Chief, Keith Tracy in the back, for being here with us today as well. Thank you for all the help you do in the community. Now, I know our congressional leaders can't be here today. They're doing yeoman's work down in Washington. But I do want to, point out Bonnie Wu from Senator Carper's office is here. It's here in the back. Bonnie, thank you. As well as Christy Gleason and J.J. Francis from Senator Coon's office. Thank you, guys. I think we got to do another one of those congressional roundtables pretty soon. It's always easy in Delaware because you only have to get 3 people in the room. So, but we appreciate your constant support, obviously, for the state of Delaware on the Hill. I also want to thank Lieutenant Governor. I don't believe they're here today, but I do want to thank him for his support as well as the governor. The governor and I have spent, we've had two or three meetings now specifically dealing with homelessness, and I appreciate his commitment to it. I'd also like to thank the members of my HUD team. The good thing about HUD is, we cover a large region. For those that don't know, Region 3 is Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and D.C. But our Delaware team is very strong, and we also have a lot of staffers in our Philadelphia office that live in the state of Delaware. But the first person I wanted to point out is Maria Bynum. And Maria runs our Wilmington field office. It's only a staff of 2, but she really runs a tight ship over there, so thanks, Maria. I also want to point out the guy that's probably most responsible for today's event is our Community Planning and Development Director, Nadab Bynum. No relation, no relation. With me today, as always, is my senior advisor, Elvis Sullivan. And Dave, where's Dave? There's Dave Sillery. Dave Sillery. Dave's our customer support service in our Wilmington field office, and realistically, David gets the earful of all the angry calls that come in. But David, thank you for all the work that you do. So we're celebrating pretty much everybody's collective success. You know, my goal when I first came here at HUD was really to kind of make sure I got out in the field, right? I mean, I could sit in an office all day and, you know, punch away at my computer, but I don't think that's really moving the ball. As I traveled through Region 3, one thing resonated. HUD needs to understand the issues that the local communities face, and that Washington cannot have a cookie-cutter approach when dealing with our partners. Every locality is different, and understanding individual communities' challenges and dealing with them on a more personal basis will make it easier for both our partners and HUD to thrive. So my main priority, since all services are delivered in the field, is to visit at least 50% of the counties in Region 3 by the end of my first term. Well, we've accomplished that already. You know, I've visited 155 counties since I started a little less than 2 years ago. And the reason for that, frankly, is to just be on the ground and see the way things work. And when I meet with, you know, local leaders and nonprofits and housing authorities and cities and states and counties, you realize that this isn't a cookie-cutter approach to things. And I always joke, I probably shouldn't say this, but you know, sometimes the people in Washington, they're in a little bit of a concrete bubble. And it's my job to tell them, you know, essentially what works in Dover doesn't necessarily work in Dunleith, and what works in Wilmington is not going to necessarily work in Newark, or Philadelphia, or Baltimore, or Pittsburgh. Every locality is different. There's different approaches, and being here on the ground and talking to you all is the best way for me to get back to the secretary and the people at headquarters that we might want to do things a little bit differently. So that's really kind of been my role. So HUD does great work in the community, and it's my job to champion your work in the field. This gives us a better understanding of what you, our partners, are dealing with, and will enable me to continue to echo these sentiments to the secretary. So with that, there's a big check that's coming today, which I'm sure that's why you're all here. It sucks you can't actually cash these checks, but there is money coming behind it. So I asked Tina and Carrie, can you guys come up real quick? Thank you. To prevent and end homelessness for everyone, communities must have a comprehensive response in place to make sure all people experience a housing crisis get the help they need. In this regard, the First Aid is doing great work. I know we all take great pride in the fact that Delaware is one of only 3 states nationwide to effectively end veterans' homelessness. And I know there is more, and my bet is that Tina and Carrie will be able to fill you in on the specifics. But for now, it is with great pleasure that today I announce that a total of $8,249,505 has been awarded to support 30 local homeless assistance programs across Delaware. You want me to finish, right, before we do the check? You want to do the big check now? So this is Lisa Wolf, and I had something real nice to say about her later, but she put everything together, her and Maria, at the last minute, and she really just tells me what to do. So I think, Lisa, we're going to have everybody come up now. Yeah, hold on. Yeah. You know what? There was more of this speech, but I know you guys don't want to hear it. So no offense, Lisa. So at this point, I'm going to ask Carrie Casey, Board Chair of the Delaware Continuum of Care, to come up and say a few words. Carrie?
Thank you. thank you guys very much. I know we were excited. We needed to see that check. So we're going to do it again later, but this is so exciting. And I'm really a proud member of the Delaware Continuum of Care. And I know we just did it, but if you are a member, could you please stand? And also if you were on our scoring committee, Peggy, stand please. And just give the COC members, if you're involved with the COC, stand up, please. Just really briefly, I mean, the COC, even though we have a lot of our grantees up here, there are a lot of members of the Delaware COC that do not receive HUD funds. They just come to the table because they want to address homelessness. And we are, just a little bit about us, we are 60, 70 members strong. We represent the continuum, no pun intended, of homelessness in our state. So we include homeless providers, homeless service providers, but we also include those agencies and organizations that you wouldn't necessarily think of. Public safety, corrections, school districts, individuals who have the lived experience of being homeless. Really important. We are a very active group. We are one of only a few, I think, in the country that's a statewide COC. So we address issues in rural Sussex County as well as urban Wilmington. So that's a challenge, even though we're small. So anyway, I'm really proud of the Delaware COC. And I just wanted to say that we are very active, we are busy. In 2017, we actually all unanimously approved this plan to end homelessness in Delaware. We did it, as Joe said, we ended veterans homelessness. I mean, we were only one of 3 states in the country to do it. And we are guided by this plan, and it's just very simple. The principles of this plan are simple. That we believe that all people should have housing. We believe that it's possible to end homelessness in our state, and everything we should do should be focused on ending homelessness in Delaware. So we work really hard, very excited. We can't do it without partners and funding. So this is an unbelievable amount of money, and I have to say though, the support and HUD is always at the table with us. It's almost equal to the 8.3. Having Maria always there, helping us, getting us to where we need to go. So that's huge, so thank you. Also, just really quickly, the Housing Alliance Delaware folks, they're the ones, they're our lead agency. They package the application. We have to compete nationally for this money. It's not a given. So we have to compare to all other COCs in the country. So the work that they do, Tina, Asia, Rachel, they package it, they make sure that we have everything we need to have the most competitive application. So I really thank them a lot. The last thing I'll say is, I work for Newcastle County government. I am really busy with this a lot. So, thanks to the county executive and to my boss, Marcus Henry over there, for basically allowing me to do this work. And the county executive has been with me on the point in time. Last week when it was 4 degrees, I stayed in the Code Purple shelter. He wanted to go out. So that tells you he wants to experience, he's interested, he's using his platform to promote the issue, and it's just wonderful. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Carrie. And now we're going to bring up Tina Showalter, Executive Director of the Housing Alliance of Delaware.
Thank you, everyone. I want to take a moment to thank Regional Administrator DeFelice, Maria, and everyone at HUD, including Secretary Carson, for bestowing this unprecedented award to Delaware. I think it speaks volumes of the success that you all are achieving together, and I am proud and honored to be part of this community, and I'm kind of an amateur at it. Thank you also, and I know it sounds like a mutual admiration society, but thank you very, very much to the COC board, to the COC membership, and especially today to the COC committee, and to all of the agencies who allow their members to serve on the board, and that does include County Executive Meyer. Carrie Casey and our Vice Chair, Kathy McKay, take on this responsibility all year round, in addition to their own personal professional obligations. They don't get paid, and so if we're taking a little time to thank these people, it's because of one of the rare chances we get to do publicly. I also want to thank my amazing staff. I do very little other than sign letters as ED around this process, although I am learning a great deal more. My associate director, Rachel Beatty-Stucker, has been doing this for several years. She is the person that I go to for decisions, and along with Asia White, who's also our COC program manager. They support and help the scoring committee. It is a thankless job where they make very conscientious, deliberate, and difficult decisions about the funding that will come for the next year, and help those agencies bolster them and prop them up so that they can maximize the resources they have to do this very important work. I also want to thank all those agencies that helped us last year. We had over 130 volunteers. It's particularly poignant that we're doing this today because last year was probably the coldest pit on record, although it was only my second, but it felt pretty cold. County Executive Meyer was out with us again this year. He wanted no pomp and circumstance, was slid in with his knit cap and didn't even want to be announced. But, two knit caps, and long johns probably, to join us out on the cold streets of Wilmington. Thankfully, everyone had sought shelter most in Code Purple. We have a few less resources this year, so we were a little bit concerned about people getting out of the elements. Carrie Casey, who had a very early flight out of BWI the next morning, was in Code Purple doing probably close to 100 people. Nadib and Maria also were doing Code Purple and showed up again the next morning to do the libraries. We believe it was the most comprehensive and hopefully the most accurate pit we've done in a while. It is a small snapshot, but it's an important and one of the few metrics we have to get a realistic view of the problem of homelessness in our state. My dad had an expression and actually a favorite quote, and it's pretty well known. It's from a senator who died from probably longer ago than most of you have been born, Hubert Humphrey, who said, "A society can be measured by how they treat those in the twilight of life, in the dawn of life, and in the shadow of life." And looking at all of you here today, and looking at all the people who will be recipients of this award for the hard work that they do, I think we're living up to that standard. And I am incredibly proud to be part of this community and incredibly proud to be in Delaware where such great work is going on. And also, I want to thank Joe for the shout out to my hometown of Claymont. Once again, it's proof that some of the most dedicated and talented civil servants have come out of my hometown, Hardscrabble, Claymont. Thank you very much.
That was awesome. With that, we're going to bring up County Executive Matt Meyer. Matt?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see everyone today. Thanks so much to Joe, Maria, and the whole HUD team. It's really a wonderful step forward for the county, obviously for the city, the state, and really the country to make such a commitment. Thanks as well to our federal delegation, Senator Carper Coons, Representative Blunt Rochester, who are out there fighting every day to make sure that Delaware's homeless get the things that they need. I did go out last week on the point-in-time count. It was my second point-in-time count, a little colder this year than last year. What we do is we ride around in vehicles and look for those who are out and count them. There's a questionnaire. We let them know what services are available. Last year when I went out, it really was eye-opening to me as someone who grew up here, did a lot of work with homeless actually in high school, to go, we went under Kirkwood Highway. Remember that? Right by the charcoal pit, a little bridge there. And we sat there, I think a few people are here, and we sat there and talked to a family that was basically living there. And it was really an extraordinary education for me, something I think about just about every day in my job when I think about who my constituents are and who are the people I'm serving and how do we serve them better. When I was out last week, fortunately, for the first hour and a half, we didn't really find anyone. We couldn't actually walk around for much longer than about 15 minutes, or we were gonna freeze, and got back in the car. There were two of us, two cars. One car, I was in a Christiana caravan following another car, and we were driving out by the train station, and we were going to a park. And the car we were following stopped right by Sunday Breakfast Mission. It stopped right by Sunday Breakfast Mission, and we didn't know what was going on. We thought we were going to the park, and we sit there for about 30 seconds, and then we noticed that there was a man kind of crumpled on the sidewalk. And the car in front of us got out, and went to talk to him. Turned out he didn't have gloves. He was trying to get to one of the Code Purple shelters, one of the emergency shelters. He couldn't move, and he was stuck. We called 911, took care of him. When we were waiting for the ambulance to come, I talked to him a little bit, and he had the same name as one of my brother's best friends growing up. And I knew that this guy growing up, my brother's best friend, was in and out of foster care. And in the course of talking to this guy, he mentioned that as a child, he was in and out of foster care. So just as we were talking, I handed him my card. I said, please, get to the hospital, take care of yourself. When you get a chance, give me a call. I want to talk to you. I want to see what we can do to help. He called me yesterday, and we spoke. Turns out it's not the same guy. He went to the same high school for a time as my brother's friend, and because they have the same name, he knows my brother's friend. But it was interesting talking to this guy. He worked for a chiropractor for 30 years. A few years ago, the chiropractor came on hard times. I think there was some wrongdoing there, some ethical problems. The chiropractor business went out of business, and he suddenly was out of a job. Based on that, there was a spiral. His whole life kind of went out of control, and he ended up homeless. He's been homeless a little over than a year. It reminded me when I was working on homelessness in high school. I was once told by someone who had been previously homeless, he said to me, Matt, people tend to think that the solution to homelessness is more jobs, or they think it's substance abuse prevention, or they think it's domestic violence shelters. They think it's one thing. But it's really not one thing. He said, every person, this individual told me, every person he's ever met who's homeless have a different story and a different little demon that sent them in that spiral to where they ended up today. And in fact, if you think, in me in my life, and I guess many of us, when we think about the things that hold us up and keep us stable and keep us where we are, there are those things that could happen, a little bad luck, some bad decisions, where we could all one day end up in that place. And it's so important that we as a community come together, not just to make sure services are available, but we do it in a way that that enables services to be provided to people no matter what demons, personal demons, that they are facing. What's amazing about this money is it enables us to do that through so many different organizations with so many different approaches to deal with so many different issues. I also should note a particular shout out to the continuum of care. People working so hard, because if you look at Kansas, Mississippi, Montana, and West Virginia, I don't want to start a war of the states here, but you do West Virginia, right? Sorry. Kansas, Mississippi, Montana, and West Virginia, their populations are all larger than Delaware, but we got more money than all of them. And that's because it was a competitive grant. And that's because it wasn't just you have these people and here you go. And it's a credit to our federal delegation that we're out there fighting. Everyone's fighting hard for their people down in Washington, but I think maybe we're fighting just a little bit harder. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll just cut that West Virginia part out of it. Thanks, Matt. With that, I'd like to bring up Mayor Mike Brzezicki. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. There's nothing gets cut out. It's recorded forever, let me just tell you. So a couple of thoughts, and I'll be brief. But one, my first thought is, what a wonderful community we have. There's something very special about the sincerity on the faces of everybody in this room. Second thought, we had a little minor attachment anxiety when Jane left. We thought, who are we going to get? And Joe was down in no time, notwithstanding that embarrassing reference to my football days a century ago. We had a wonderful visit, and I had this feeling that this guy's real. And, there's kind of a team. There's an unnamed team. But Maria, you're a star, and we just love having you on our team. Carrie Casey, you're the best and always have been. You couldn't have picked a better place to have this event than, to me, the premier caring institution in the state of Delaware, and I challenge you to go anywhere else and find people who do it any better than Ministry of Caring. But it's just extraordinary. The one thing, and I think Matt was alluding to this, one thing that happens when you're in a leadership position and you go through your community, you start to understand what problems people have. And I can't tell you how many times people would, when I was out campaigning or when I was out just doing what I'm supposed to do as a mayor, people would stand up to me and say, "Mayor, what do you know about my life?" And I'll say, "The more than you guess," but I take your point. You know, there are people who really they live in conditions that most of us cannot even understand. And it's the great privilege of my life that I begin to understand that. And I think that's how we become better human beings, which in the end of this long journey is really, I think in my mind, the most important thing, that you begin to understand our fellow man and the problems that they have and help them on their journey as well. So, Joe, thank you so much, because I know you care about this state. We look forward to your continued participation in making Delaware a better place. And thanks to all of you. Good being with you.
Thanks, Mayor. And you know, a common theme here has been partnerships, right? It's the federal partnership through our office, through the senator's office, through the congresswoman's office, to the governor and lieutenant governor, to your state officials, to your county officials, down to your local mayors. But you know, what really makes these stories important isn't all of us government officials. It's the people that this affects, and we actually have a few of them here with us today. So did Khadija join us? Did she make it? Yeah. Well, at least we'll bring up everybody else that we do have with us today. So we're going to bring up Jennifer Treen and Elsa Omandi to come up, please. I want them to be able to tell you their stories, right? I mean, look, you all do this work, so you understand, but it's for the people out there that maybe don't understand it inside and out. And so I've been, like I said, I've done a ton of tours to the Ministry of Caring through Mary Mother of Hope House. I was there probably about 7-8 months ago. And, you know, I really appreciated the work that they were doing. So with that, I'm going to bring up Jennifer Treen to tell her story, who was once homeless and now is a resident of the Mary Mother of Hope House. Jennifer, come on up.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jennifer. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous. I'm glad to have this opportunity to share my Ministry of Caring story with you and to say thank you for helping change my life and my son's life too. I was married for 15 years. My husband was in the Navy and we had 2 beautiful boys, and it was a perfect life. My downfall came from prescription pain pills. I never bought them on the street. My doctor shopped everywhere. Hid my problem for a long time, but I couldn't hide it forever. My marriage ended and I found myself in a jail cell one night for impaired driving. I was devastated. It was not me. It was not me at all, and I had to get control. I needed some help. So I found a rehab program. I stayed there for about 7 months, and when I graduated, moved out, and shortly after I got pregnant. I was at my wit's end. I'm thinking, where could I go? Who's going to take me in? How am I going to do this? I had no job, no home, no money. I was trying so hard, but how was I going to take care of this baby? And then a friend said, call the Ministry of Caring. They'll help you. I went to Mary Mother of Hope House 1 with nothing but fear and determination. I was a wreck, but Hope House 1, Annie Mountain, Wilma Forrest, and later on Kim Bolden gave me the love and support I never thought I'd have again. Most of all, I felt safe, I felt welcome, and I felt love. And I thank Brother Ronald for that too. When my son Justin was born, I moved into Hope House 2, the Ministry of Caring shelter for women and children. And believe me, I worked every job I could find. I worked at BJ's at the deli counter, and I had to work there till about 10 o'clock at night and wasn't working with the child care. I worked at a sub shop on Market Street. But my baby boy had a safe place at the ministry's child care center, and I often ate at the manual dining room. But now I serve with AmeriCorps for Ministry of Caring at Sacred Heart Village 2. I love the senior residents, and I think most of them love me. Most of them. Justin and I have a small apartment here in Wilmington, and my 2 boys are able to visit regularly. And I finally got a car too, so that's a good thing. So I want to give back, and I'm determined to deserve the love and support I receive from everyone at the Ministry of Caring. I want to help others as the ministries help me. I really, really do, and I do it every day. I came to Hope House 1 and the ministry with nothing, and now I'm a part of the Ministry of Caring's family, and I have hopes and plans for the future. So thank you for reaching out to help, and I will always be grateful to each of you for caring. Thank you.
Oh, it's a great story. And with that, to tell her story, I'm going to bring up Elsa Omandi. Elsa, come on up.
Hello, everyone. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm trying to calm down. My name is Elsa Omondi. I'm originally from Kenya. I have 3 children. I ended up homeless last year in April after the person I was living with put me out with my youngest child. I didn't have my other 2 children with me. My youngest child was born here with several complications, and I ended up at Hope House 2 after I Googled and looked for shelter. A few days after my stay there, my child had stabilized enough for me to be able to enroll her into daycare, and they helped me with that, and I was able to put her in approximately after 7 days. A few days after that, a few weeks, I started attending workshops through the program at Hope House 2, and I ended up learning about CNA programs through the Job Placement Center. So I applied for the program, and I went to school. I finished, and I graduated, and I'm now working for the Ministry of Caring's House of Joseph 2. And I'm also enrolled now to go and start my LPN classes. I've gained so much from Ms. Kim and everybody else at Hope House 2. I can't begin to describe that journey. I am now living in my own house through the Ministry of Caring. I was able to reunite with my other kids in December, and today is the first day I drove myself in my own car to work. So honestly, words can't describe. I honestly can't describe. I can't even put to words what they have done for me and my family, but I am just grateful for every single thing, and I hope that you will continue to help others as much as you've helped me. Thank you.
I mean, those 2 stories are really, really what it's all about. Like I said, politicians and government officials can get up and talk till we're blue in the face, but it's really those human stories that really put a face to this. And Elsa, you'll be happy to know that there is funding in that check for both House of Joseph 1 and House of Joseph 2. So that helps with work. The one thing I do want to mention is last week in the News Journal, there was an editorial that was essentially questioning, and it was all in good reason, questioning the point in time. I don't think they understood the point of the point in time count. I mean, so you're just going out and counting people. But frankly, it was more just it's a better way for us to say, no, this is how we determine, what the population looks like, and we make sure we get people the services that they need. So there is outreach going on. It's not just simple going out, counting people and forgetting that they're there and coming home. But it is up to us to tell these stories, right? To tell Elsa's story, and to tell Jennifer's story, and tell all these other stories of people that they've fallen on hard times, and they ended up in a position that they probably never thought they would find themselves in. And there are people to help. So it's really about our public and private partnerships really getting this message out. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to dial up these type of stories. HUD headquarters recently launched the Humans of HUD story, which is really profiling individuals that have made giant gains and leaps, and because of the support from people like yourselves. One last thing, and Nadab will kill me if I don't bring this up for our continuing people out here, is essentially we want to get you the money as fast as we can possibly get it. Obviously, we had this little thing called the government shutdown, and things are moving a little bit slower. That's why I'm in such a heavy pace to get out here. But if you get something from our office, from CPD, turn that stuff around immediately. The quicker you turn that around, the quicker it gets back out to you. And I know sometimes we can be a little slow with this stuff, but we're really trying to put our foot on the gas here. I don't want to hold anybody up. I think this was a great day. This was a great event. Again, thank you to the Ministry of Caring. I hope someone is recording this for Brother Ronald. Hi, Brother Ronald. I hope you're enjoying yourself in the Holy Land. I'm happy to be back here. So with that, thank you, everyone. And we're going to do, I think, one more group photo. Again, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.